guys, it's Eve from Fred VC Died Laughing, and I am here to do my weekly wrap up, which are the last few books I read in 2019 and the first book that I've read in 2020. The first book I want to talk about is a tour novella that I read. That's The Black God's Drums by Djèlí Clark. This is a really interesting kind of historical fiction steampunk world set in New Orleans, and we are following a girl called Creeper, who is a little bit of she's kind of like an orphan. She's a bit of like a street child, and she also has this talent where, or not really a talent, she kind of has this special ability where the goddess, one of the goddesses of her people, is kind of like with her all the time, like is in her head and speaks to her and kind of gives her, she basically is like a living embodiment of that goddess in a way. And in this book we are following Creeper as she finds out that basically some bad people are going to try and take this machine, which can basically create this really big storm, and it could destroy New Orleans. So she ends up teaming up with this female captain of this airboat. They end up kind of teaming up together to try and get this machine back, which they call the Black God's Drums. And this is just like a very fun, like a fun quick read. As I said, it's a historical fiction, but it also has some really interesting kind of steampunk themes in it as well, which I really enjoyed. I thought the character of Creeper was really good, especially, and the character of the captain, whose name I can't think of at the moment, the captain who she teams up with, that kind of friendship. I really enjoyed the camaraderie between them two, and like just the kind of the fun conversations they had and the dialogue between them as characters. And I just love that setting of historical New Orleans. I think New Orleans, I'm just fascinated by New Orleans. I think I love books that are set there. I love like the originals, the TV show, the spin-off to the Vampire Diaries, which was set in New Orleans. I think it's just a really fun place for a book to be set in, or any TV show or movie. So I really enjoyed that as well, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. The next two books are both part of the Modern Fairy Tales by Holly Black, so I'll kind of top the two of them together. That is Valiant and Ironside, obviously both by Holly Black. Valiant basically follows this girl called Val, who runs away from her home when she finds out that her mother and her boyfriend are having a relationship behind her back, and she ends up going to New York, and she falls in with these kind of real down and out teenagers that she finds, who are living in these like subway tunnels, and it turns out that they are basically human messengers for some fairies, for a troll who lives there, and they deliver this kind of special medicine or drink to other fairies living in New York, which basically enables them to have stronger glamours, because obviously in New York they're around iron, which kind of weakens fairies a lot. So this potion, this medicine, which the humans called Never, enables the fairies to have better magic. And also, if humans take it, if they inject it, basically like heroin, it gives them the ability to be able to do magic and to glamour people as well. So Val falls in with these people and ends up in this kind of strange relationship with the troll. Also like this kind of weird relationship with the friends that she's after coming up with. This book is very gritty, like it's super like early 2000s. I said this about the other book, Tithe. These books are very dated. I think they're very much early 2000s, when you never saw characters who were a little bit gritty and a little bit on the wild side, characters who like you know, teenagers in YA that drank and did drugs and had sex and stuff like that. And it was real, like, I think if I'd read it back then I would have been like, oh my god, these characters are so cool. But now you look back and it's just icky and it's gross, and we don't really need that anymore. Like, we don't have those kind of characters in YA anymore, like mostly because, like, you know, I think those characters, like, and these themes need to be better explored when they are put into books, particularly YA books. Things like drug use and alcohol use, and casual sex and stuff like that. Like, you just need a little bit more exploration around it. You need a bit more responsibility when it does come up in books. You can't just throw it in willy-nilly the way it's kind of thrown in here. And the drug use in this book is quite graphic and it just made me uncomfortable as a reader. I didn't like any of the characters in this. This book kind of made me feel dirty in a way. Like, it made me feel like I wanted to shower. It was gross. It was like, you know, all the characters, like, they haven't showered. They're basically living rough. They're homeless. They haven't showered. Everything about them just seems kind of dirty in a way, and yeah, it's just kind of gross, and I just really didn't enjoy this, and I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I don't think it mattered as much in the whole scheme of the two books, because Ironside again follows the characters that we met in Tithe. It follows, what's her name, it follows Kay and Robin again, and kind of the fight for the throne of I think it's the Sealy Court, or the Court of Termites. And obviously we know Kay and Robin from the Cruel Prince series. They're in that as well, and it's really exciting to see the characters that we know from the Cruel Prince, and we've kind of gotten to that world, and we're kind of hearing them mentioned, and then we're seeing these characters who have a brief appearance in that, and we're seeing their own story here. That is really exciting, and I really enjoyed that, and I actually think Ironside was the strongest book out of this trilogy. I quite enjoyed Ironside. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I just thought it explored everything a little better. The characters had a little bit more of a struggle. I feel like there was more depth put into the characters in this one and their struggles. Kay's struggle in terms of like her human and her fairy side, and then her relationship with Robin. I do think the relationship is still a bit odd. I feel like it definitely needed a little bit more. It's not totally, I think, like equal in a way, but I did really enjoy this one. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read I received from O'Brien Press a few months ago in exchange for an honest review, and it was The House on Hawthorne Road, which is another kind of middle grade book. We're following, I think, like a 13-year-old character in this. I think she's about 12, and she moves from London to Dublin with her parents when her granny dies, and they can't live in the house anymore in London, so they move to Dublin, and they move to this house on Hawthorne Road, and this little girl, Beth, is not very happy about moving here. She's having a hard time at school. She's being bullied, and then this boy ends up like keeps showing up in her room and like messing things up and like ripping her pages and like, you know, ripping her books and stuff and like just messing her room up. And turns out that he is actually is living in the same house but in the 50s, and through like a crack in the wall they're able to transport back and forth between the 50s. The premise of this is good, and I guess the overall like the friendship that's made between the two, I think it's Beth and Robbie, the friendship there is cute and it's nice, but I found myself, Beth isn't really a particularly nice character. Even for a kid, I found her just a little bit up herself and annoying, and yeah, I just didn't really enjoy her as a character. And then the story kind of got a little bit, I felt like there wasn't enough. The time travel thing was very vague, and like how it happened. There was no explanation of why they were time traveling and like how this could happen, and it was just a bit messy in a way. And I'm sure if a kid is reading this, like obviously they probably don't have as many questions. But yeah, the time travel element of it is just a little bit odd, and I wasn't really sold on it at all. And it just gets a little bit messy, and yeah, it's an okay book. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I think a younger kid will enjoy it a lot more than an adult, obviously. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was a really random book I think I found like on my BookBub deals, and for some reason I just picked it up, and it's Going Through the Change by Samantha Bryant. And this is basically a series where these women who are going through the menopause took this like type of like medicine from this woman, and it basically gave them all these weird abilities. Like, so one woman just turns into a man, just turns into this like really strong man out of nowhere, like overnight is a man. One woman basically is able to like, she gets all these like scales on her body, and when she's really angry she transforms into almost like a lizard like creature. Like think of that rock guy, I guess, in the Fantastic Four or the Hulk, a little bit like that, kind of more like lizard like. And then another girl, she floats, but she can kind of, by the end of the book she can kind of like fly. And then another woman basically can shoot flames out of her hands, and it's kind of cool. So basically there's these women who are like also dealing with the menopause and now also dealing with supernatural abilities, and then it turns out that the person who gave them this medicine in the first place isn't really a nice person and could be a little bit evil, so they have to go basically and figure out like what the hell to do with her, and they kind of team up in a way. A few of them team up, some of them go the other side, but some of them team up as well, and basically kind of fight and figure out their abilities, and it's just a little bit of like comedic fun. There are some bits in this that are funny, like it's just a simple funny book, but there are also bits that kind of, you're like, I don't know, like there's bits that kind of made me kind of be like, oh, I don't know if that's like kosher to say. Things like just like in particular like the character Linda, who becomes a man, and in her chapters she is Linda, and she says she, her, like she seems to use she, her pronouns for herself, at least in like the chapters that are following her specifically, we are using the Linda name and she, her pronouns. And then in other chapters, even after they know that she is Linda, they still use he, and they still use like the male name that she kind of gives to herself, and it's just, there's just like this, it's not clear what pronouns should be used there. And I just feel like in terms of, and like Linda like being a woman and in this man's body, and she's almost trapped in a way, but in a way she also seems to like it, but you're not really sure exactly, like, would she want her old body back, or is she happy in this new body? And I just feel like it could be triggering for some people if they are going through similar changes or similar feelings, like in terms of being a trans person, like in a body that you don't feel that you fit in. I'm sure there could be points in this book that could be triggering. I'm not really sure, but there are bits in it that just kind of made me a bit like, I don't really know about that. The only Asian character in the book, I will say, was the evil scientist. Yeah, I will say I did enjoy that one of the characters is younger. A lot of the characters are like 40, 50, 60s, and I did like seeing this older women represented in a book like this, that they're all kind of kick-ass and kind of cool. One of the women is younger because she went through cancer and she had to get her ovaries out, or her hysterectomy, so she is going through early menopause, and I kind of liked that that was in there as well, because obviously there are a lot of younger women who go through early menopause and it's really difficult for them, and so I liked that that was included as well. Not all of the characters were in the older stage of life. But I do think, like, it was fun. I'm not sure if I'd go on and read the second book, but this was fun for what it was, if you don't take it too seriously, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. And then the last book I finished this week was the first book I read in 2020, and that was Blindsided by Karin. This is my first Karin book. I've read, like, just seen so many amazing things said about Karin books, and I finally picked one up. So this is following a paediatrician slash county morgue doctor called Sarah, and she is living in a small kind of town called Grant County, or I don't know if that's the town in the county, but she's in Grant County anyway, and she basically finds this girl stabbed to death in the bathroom of the local diner, and it's really, really grisly. Really bad things have been done to her, and then very soon after that another girl is taken and then found in a really bad way, and they kind of feel that they have like a serial killer on the loose. Sarah and her ex-husband, who is the police chief, are trying to figure out what the hell's happening and what to do. One of the other police officers in the investigation is the sister of one of the dead girls, so there is a personal connection there as well, and it is just like a grisly crime thriller trying to figure out what happens before the next person is killed. I really enjoyed this one. It's definitely very, very graphic, which I expected it to be because it's Karin Slaughter, and that's why I've heard about her. I've heard she doesn't hold back. She definitely doesn't. So this book in particular, it has very, very, very graphic scenes in terms of like sexual assault, brutality against women, rape, really just horrible things done to these women. If you're at all sensitive towards things like that, don't read this book because you will not like it. I really enjoyed this one. I did kind of guess who it was kind of halfway through the book, but I didn't mind that either. I guessed the person, and then I kind of went back to another person, and then I went back to this person who it was. So that was fine. I don't always mind guessing early, and sometimes it's fun to do that. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, and I will definitely be continuing on. This is like a series, the Grant County series. I think we're following the same doctor and police chief and stuff while they do different cases, so it should be quite fun to follow the series, and I will definitely be reading the next one, and I will definitely be reading more Karin Slaughter when I get my hands on it. So yeah, so that's everything I have read this week. Please let me know what you guys think of the books I read, if you've read any of them, and what you guys have been reading. What was your first read for 2020? I would love to know, and I'll see you guys again next time.